Association is a professional non-profit body affiliated to All India Management Association with the aim to promote scientific management in industry and trade. It also undertakes training and consultancy to improve managerial effectiveness and competitiveness of its members. Meerut Management Association, formed in 1966, is registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. The founder members of the association were Sri K.N. Mohan, Managing Director, Mohan Meekins Breweries, Sri Sultan Singh Jain, Managing Director, Saru Smelting, and Sri R. Sahi, General Manager, Dorala Sugar Works.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ankur Jaggi once again. On behalf of Meerut Management Association, let me welcome you all to the 33rd Annual Convention. So, the topic of the convention, as we all know, is the new age recycle economy. For people, those who have questions, we are having a panel discussion during the end of the session 2, which would be headed by Mr. Vibhor Agarwal, former President, Meerut Management Association. To begin with, I would like to now invite our President, Mr. Gaurav Jain, to take charge and give his President address. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thank you, Ankur. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome. Today is a day we are celebrating our 33rd Annual Convention for the very first time on the digital platform. We as a Meerut Management Association is a professional non-profit body affiliated to All India Management Association with the aim to promote scientific management in industry and trade. We undertake trainings and consultancy to improve managerial effectiveness and competitiveness to its members. Meerut Management Association, formed in the year 1966 and is registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. We as a Meerut Management Association works towards promoting students, our members, our corporate houses in terms of management trainings, effectiveness, productivity, and all other consultancy we provide. We also take care of the student chapter, which provide mentorship to the students regarding their placement, regarding their motivation, regarding the direction, and giving planning and emphasizing more on strengthening the youth of India. We also like to thank our sponsor who've been helping us in and out to make this thing happen. Also, at the same time, this year the topic for our annual convention, the new age recycle economy. We have chosen this subject because India is a consumption-based economy, and moving onwards, we have to rely on the resources we have with us. So it's really important for us to think about the resources we have and how we consume it and how we reuse it and how we recycle it. The recent research has shown that recycling economy itself is a $500 billion economy by 2030. Emphasizing more and broadly on 3 or 4 sectors. One is steel, second is e-waste, from which gold is extracted nowadays, and the third one is again plastics, one of the very large economy based on this plastic. Pre-COVID, India was recycling approximately 60% of this PET waste that we produce every year. But after COVID, things have changed. So it's really high time we need to understand and learn how this recycle economy will help us to lead the world in future. So with this, I would like to say thank you to everyone for joining us, and also I would like to thank you all the sponsors, and special thanks to the convention team, the chairman, co-chairman, and the editor of the Endeavor magazine, along with the entire team of MMA, who've been in and out supporting during this pandemic on the digital platform, and wish him all the best for this endeavor and the convention. And thank you everyone once again for joining. Thank you everyone. Back to Ankur.
Thank you, Gaurav. I would now like to request the convention chairman, Mr. Siddharth Singhal, also Vice President, Meerut Management Association, to address the audience, please. Over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Gaurav. I hope I'm audible to everybody. I think I'm audible.
Yes,
I would just take the leverage. I just in not take much time and then just briefly tell you about the association. I'm sorry, association has already been expanded by the president. I would tell you about the convention and how we came about and how we took this topic of the 33rd annual convention. When we sat down and we were discussing topics for this convention, the first thought which came out to our mind is, what should we do? What is the progressive ideas which are in the market? So, cycling as per has always been a part of the Indian culture. To give you a very small example, when we used to have a child's shirt was bought in any family, then it used to be handed over from the elder child to the younger child, and then it used to go to the dusting cloth, and then after that, whenever that job was finished, तो उसका पोछा बन जाया करता था. तो जब तक उस बेचारे कपड़े के प्राण नहीं निकल जाते थे, we used to recycle it, reuse it, repurpose it, and do whatever we used to do with this. But over the years, consumerism and propensity to consume more has been associated and has made us believe that we are progressing economically if we are consuming more. It did not take into account the economic toll that all of these activities were having. So it's very relevant in today's times when the pandemic is upon us and it has shown the world the deeds or misdeeds, rather, the economic disasters that we have fueled through our consumerism is probably coming back to us. How streets have been taken over by peacocks, we've all seen the images. Quite interesting, but at the same time, it also sends a warning bell that look, you cannot go on consuming the earth's resources indefinitely. You have to draw a line, and if you keep on doing this to Mother Nature will come back to you in some way or the other. Also, this pandemic has shown us in times when there were lesser things to consume, how to do more with less stuff, how to reduce, how to reuse, how to recycle our waste. At the same time, it should also make economic sense. The world will only recycle stuff when it will make economic sense for them to recycle it. So, there may be NGOs who are working for the cause, but unless and until you have economic sense or economic benefit which is being derived out of the recycling activities, substantial investment or business sense will not come into the picture. So this is our small endeavor wherein we are trying to go and see what are the emerging tech. I'll give you a very small example. Sometime earlier when I visited Europe, I was really surprised. There was a very small deposit system in Germany. So when you buy a bottle of cold drink, Coca-Cola, so they take a deposit called P-Fund. So that is essentially, I think, 25 euro cents or something like that. When you give it back to the store, the empty bottle, you get that refund back in terms of a coupon which you can use for your own work, or you can buy more stuff out of it. That has led to a stoppage of littering on the streets of Germany. There are homeless people like in any country, and they go about picking up those bottles and they'll send it back, they'll give it back, but it makes an economic sense. So that is the thing that we want to portray through this convention. I am highly blessed to have a wonderful team. My co-chairman, editor, all the past presidents, everybody has um, worked day and night. In this pandemic, things were really difficult for us sometimes to work out, but we hope to put on a good show. We are really heartened that we have good attendance this time, and we hope to take the numbers further tomorrow. So let's start with the convention. Thank you all for joining us. Let's have a great convention this time.
Thank you, Siddharth. We have our first session speaker, Mr. Satish Sinha, who's currently associated with Toxic Links as Associate Director, who would be talking on biomedical waste management. The chairman for the session is Mr. Nishant Jain, Joint Secretary, Meerut Management Association. I would now request Mr. Nishant Jain to take over from here and conduct the first session, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankur, for introducing me. Good evening, everyone, and I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Satish Sinha. He is Associate Director at Toxic Link. Mr. Sinha has been associated with this research-based policy advocate group since 2003 and has been leading a team trying to effect change both at policy and grassroots level. His knowledge and expertise on environmental issues, especially in areas of municipal, hazardous, and medical waste management, food safety and chemicals and POPs, has helped in taking these critical issues forward in the country. He has worked extensively on the policy and legal aspects of e-waste and has also co-authored e-waste published by the Energy and Resource Institute, TERI. He has in-depth knowledge on the informal recycling sector in India. Prior to joining Toxic Links, he held an important assignment of Director of FICCI Care Gujarat Rehabilitation Project post the Gujarat earthquake 2000. He brings along rich and diverse management experience with him, having served with an Indian Air Force for over 20 years in various responsible positions. I invite Mr. Sinha to share his views on the topic.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Chair. And first of all, my thanks to Meerut Management Association for having invited me. And also congratulations to you for your annual convention and having a nice large gathering talking about an environmental issue, and that too, something like recycling, which is close to my heart too. Actually, I was supposed to be coming to Meerut and having this face-to-face convention or in person before the lockdown happened. But unfortunately, the lockdown happened. We were discussing about it in month of February to be coming to Meerut and talking about it. But then, we had the fear of this for the coronavirus or the COVID issue, the pandemic, and then we decided not to go ahead with it, and I had my apprehensions. So now we are online and talking about it. Yeah, it's great to see that Meerut Management Association is talking about some of the key environmental issues, and one of it is about materials and how do we handle materials. What is the criticality of material, and why is the world today talking about a different kind of economic concept, which largely stems from the fact that we're talking about circular economy and we are talking about resource efficiency, because how do we use resources more efficiently, in which recycling becomes a component of something. I was actually when we were speaking, I was asked to come and speak about electronic waste, but as things turned out, we are now facing this pandemic. And then between me and Vivor, I think he suggested that why don't you speak on biomedical waste or COVID waste? How is COVID waste being managed? So I think it is contextual at this point of time, and it could be of interest to many of you to understand what, as society, as governments, as people who are dealing with this issue. So that's the little thing about COVID waste. So I'll just go ahead and start my presentation. Is my screen being shared?
Yes, the screen is now visible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So it's still not full screen. I'm trying to do that. Okay. Yeah, I think now it is full screen. You would be seeing it. So this is about biomedical waste. Now, what is biomedical waste when we talk about biomedical waste? As the name suggests, is very simple and easy to understand. But oh no, sorry, I just talk about my little organization that I am from. It's an environmental organization, and we work on all these issues about municipal waste, electronic waste, ship breaking, food safety, and this is where I come from. And we are based in New Delhi in Jangpura. I was talking about biomedical waste. So I think it is any waste, as the definition goes, any waste that is generated during diagnosis, treatment, immunization, both of humans and animals is referred to as biomedical waste. But by nature of it, I think biomedical waste becomes uh, highly infectious, and it has a potential to cause disease, both to people who are being treated, to people who treat or the caregivers, and also, if not handled well, then to society at large. So this is the problem with biomedical waste. But one thing to understand about biomedical waste is also that all the waste that is generated from these facilities that I have listed, hospital, clinics, and so forth, all of it is not infectious. Please understand this very well in the beginning of the whole thing, that it is, if you look at the waste, just about 10 to 15% of the waste is actually infectious. Rest 85% of the waste is non-infectious. So the issue lies, but how do you manage this 15% of the waste? If you can manage this 15% of the waste well, then you have solved the problem. But the problem happens that if you mix all the waste, then everything becomes infectious, and then you don't know what to do with it. So as a country, we have actually dealt with it for quite a long time, and we have certain amount of expertise in this country, or I would say that fair amount of expertise in this country of dealing with biomedical waste. And we have a regulation which is as old as about more than 20 years old. It started in 1998. So we actually started working on biomedical waste as an organization also as Toxics Link in 1995. And by the time the nation had a biomedical waste regulation, it was in 1998, which was drafted by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, which has now been revised in 2016, the last revision, where I was invited as an expert member on the group to advise on revision of these rules. So as an organization also, we keep reviewing it from time to time and keep suggesting as to what are the gaps in the system and how it needs to be, how the compliance needs to be improved. So we have various kinds of guidelines, and recently, after this pandemic has come about or emerged, the Central Pollution Control Board, which is one of these apex body in India, has issued a guideline for COVID waste management, because we have biomedical waste management, but then it's important to deal with this waste in a different manner. I shall be talking about it. And so we started with guideline 1. It happened in month of April, and then we had guideline 2, guideline 3, and guideline 4 now. So, we had to keep updating this guideline. The government had to keep updating the guideline, because as we moved on, we found a lot of problems in this. A lot of, things were not happening right. So we had to do this. This is what is the data on biomedical waste in India, the total number of healthcare facilities. Then you have buried facilities, which is about 87,000. Number of beds is 20 lakhs. These are numbers which are given to, by the Central Pollution Control Board. There could be a variation in it if you go on the ground, but by and large, this is the data. The number of treatment facility, what I have written there is common bio waste treatment facility. This is the facility where the waste is treated. We have about 200 of them in this country at this point of time, across various states. If you're asking about what is the status of Uttar Pradesh has about 14 such facilities in your state, in Uttar Pradesh. And in Meerut, you have one facility, and you have another facility in Ghaziabad, which is known as Common Biomedical Waste Treatment Facility. And total biomedical waste generation in the country is about 560 tons, metric tons on a daily basis. and it varies a little bit here and there. And with Corona or COVID, it has gone up by about 100 plus tons. So it is no more 559. In normal times, it is about 560, 570, but now it has crossed about 670 tons or slightly more than that. As number of patients keep going up, the waste keeps going up. So we have a very large amount of waste which is generated, which is just COVID waste. We are calling it COVID waste. And there are many states which do not have such facilities. So there are 7 states in our country which does not have this facility. And this waste is growing at about 7% in this country. So which is a matter of little concern that the waste is growing, and do we have adequate infrastructure in this country to keep pace with the growth of waste? And when we were discussing this regulations and how to deal with this waste way back in 1995, and that is the first time on waste issues, come to think about electronic waste or come to think about hazardous waste, or be talking about plastic. But way back in 1995, which is about 22 years back, this was the kind of a business model that we all thought about and we tried to implement in this country. So what was this business model? How does it work? We said that, or the law provides for a third party or a for a profit organization to come up and set up a facility which has all the technology, which is known as the Common Biomedical Waste Treatment Facility. Is the treatment facility, which is called the central facility, and it picks up waste from all healthcare facilities and veterinary and clinics and everyone, and you have to pay for it. So this is the business model. They provide the service, the treatment facility, and everybody who is a generator of the waste has to pay for the waste. So either you pay per bed or you pay per kg. In most cases, you have to pay per bed to this facility owner. So he will come and collect waste from your hospital, like you're running a hospital of 100 bed. So you have to pay a certain amount per day for each bed. You may have 100% occupancy, you may have 30% occupancy. That is immaterial. Once the rate is fixed, that is the kind of business model that we have. And to make it viable, it is also says that one facility can look after as much as about 10,000 beds and not to cross a distance of 75 kilometers. Earlier it was 150 kilometers. So you can serve for about 150 kilometers. Now it has been reduced to 75 kilometers, and you should be able to serve about 10,000 beds plus minus something. So this is the kind of business model which is there. And let me tell you that for the last 20 years, or as we have progressed in time and as new facilities keep coming up, this business model has proved to be successful. It requires a lot of investment to set up this facility. I think the investment can go up to about, anywhere between 10 to 12 crores for setting up a facility, apart from the cost of the land. So it's just about equipment and the cost of, manpower and vehicles. That is about this much. And land is another cost. And you set it up, and then when you start doing operation and you start charging, then that's your payback process. So this is the kind of business model that we have for Common Biomedical Waste Treatment Facility. And these are the kind of technologies which are approved, which is the incinerator, which I think we all understand. That is a thermal operation. It is by raising the temperature and heating it and burning it, essentially, that you destroy or you treat the waste. And on the right, the photograph that you see, like a plant, this is an incinerator, which you're seeing on my right as I'm looking at it. So if you're looking at it, on your right is an incinerator, and on the left is something known as autoclave. This is an autoclave, which is industrial autoclave kind of size, which is the second kind of technology, which is this thing. This is nothing but steam. It generates steam, and you put your waste inside and it disinfects. And then you have shredder, which is not shown in the picture. It shreds the waste. And fourth is ETP, effluent treatment plant, which you set up for all the liquid waste that you have. You have to treat the liquid waste before you discharge. And then you have also chemical disinfection, that when some of the materials come up, you do chemical disinfection. So this is the kind of technology which has been approved, and only these are the technologies that you can install at this point of time. So if you have a new technology the technology has to be approved, and the approving authority is the Central Pollution Control Board. So, when we talk about the common biomedical waste treatment facility, there's 200 of them across the country. Most of them would have all these equipments, most of them. Some may not have one, or some may not have two, and they are highly complex technology, and they can be monitored online, most of them. Sitting in Delhi or any other place, you can monitor emissions, you can monitor the effluents, you can monitor everything from there. So it is quite interesting to see that you can do all this. Now, some things about coronavirus, because I think we are talking in times of pandemic, and this is of interest to most of the people as to what is this waste from coronavirus and what does it do and how do we deal with it. So first of all, I think most of us understand this, that is highly infectious. There is no doubt in it. I don't think it requires any further elaboration that what is the nature of infection. It has possible that it transmits from human to human, and that most of it is through droplets. That is the most common form of infection that happens, is through droplets when people are talking, or you are breathing out, or you're coughing, or you're sneezing. You could throw out coronavirus, and that's why you have this necessity of wearing a mask. Transmission from infected surfaces. So surfaces, various surfaces, and that is why most of us are using, sprays and alcohol to disinfect surfaces, like you're packing a thing or anything that you bring home, even your vegetables, you try to disinfect. So if the virus is alive there, if the virus is there on any surface, you touch it, and then you touch your face, you're likely to be infected. And they have different lifespans on different surfaces. Like on steel, if the virus is there on the steel, it will have a different lifespan. If it's available on wood, it will have a different lifespan. If it is on paper, textile, this has got different lifespans. So it depends. Something is longer, something is less, but by and large, I would say that maximum lifespan that I have read about, it doesn't go beyond 5 days. So most of this virus, if they stay on any surface that you have not treated, or you have not sprayed, or something that you're scared of, it will not go beyond 4 to 5 days. Thermal so the process of treating it is thermal and chemical disinfection. I'll talk about it later. And one important fact to remember, that this virus actually is not so complex. If you ask me honestly, it's a virus, and it is destroyed at about 70 degrees temperature. So if you treat this virus, or if you expose anything to about 70 degrees temperature for about 4 to 5 minutes, the virus is by and large destroyed. So important thing to remember, that this is the temperature at which the virus is destroyed. So how do you deal with all this waste which is contaminated or infected with virus? So important thing to remember is about, and the guidelines that have been issued by the Central Pollution Control Board also talks about these things only. So follow basic standard procedure for healthcare waste management. So standard protocol for healthcare waste management is nothing but, and that's what I spoke in the beginning, that you have to follow a stringent process of segregation. All these things that we generate in the hospitals or clinics or diagnostic center, you need to separate it. You need to put it in different colored codes that we have, like everything that is infected, like body parts or IV bottles or syringes or bandages, everything needs to be segregated separately, because depending on the material, we decide the treatment option. And then you need to handle it properly. So basically, what is trying to say that you generate the waste in the hospital and the points of generation, but it has to be taken to the treatment center, which is the common biomedical waste facility, which may be about 60 kilometers away. So you need to handle it properly, you need to collect it, you need to transport it, and then you need to treat or store it, and then you need to record it also. You need to maintain proper records for it. Use personal protective equipment and things that we all know, mask, face shield, all these things, PPE as they are normally being called, and they are very, very critical. I think we all understand the criticality of using PPE. use safe and environmentally sound treatment methods. We talked about it. I will speak about it a little more. Centralized treatment facility, that is and you don't have such infrastructure. We are lucky, fortunate that we started working on it in 1995, 96, and the country is blessed to have 200 such facilities, and we're able to, models and.
Mr. Sinha, I am sorry to have interrupted you due to a technical snag. I think your PPT is not displaying. So I would request everybody to be with us for another 2 minutes. We would quickly fix up the snag and continue with the presentation.
So we're talking about the centralized facilities that we have in this country, and we have adequate number. But if you actually compare yourself to many other countries which are in our neighborhood, or even in other countries which are slightly developed, I think they're facing huge. How do we deal with it? What do we do? It is lying all over the place. It's going to cause infection. So what do we do? I think I'm going to talk about some of it and trying to give you practical hints as to what we can do. So let's move to the next slide. This is what you're seeing, the picture as what does PPE mean? And he's a waste worker. We need to protect him. He's very important, as you know, we all calling them as Corona warrior or whatever it is. So guideline on COVID waste issued by CPCB. What are the most important things? I've just highlighted 2 or 3 important things. I think the treatment option that has been given by CPCB, initially, the first, I told you that there were 4 guidelines which have been issued by the Pollution Control Board. But initially, when there was so much of confusion in the month of March, April, and this waste started flowing in, we didn't know what to do. It was appearing to be highly infectious. You touch anything, you stop taking newspaper, you stop meeting anybody. There was even the vegetables had to be kept outside. So at that point of time, nobody wanted to take a chance. And then we even dropped some of the scientific thinking at that point of time, because most of us knew that coronavirus doesn't stay beyond 70 degrees. But then the only option at that point of time was said that you will incinerate this waste. So all the coronavirus waste or COVID waste was being sent for incineration. But now with the 4th guideline, we have decided to do with both incineration and autoclave. Autoclave is nothing but steaming it. It is put under pressure and temperature, and you create steam, and then you sanitize the waste. So, but then current preference is still incineration. Larger part of the waste is being incinerated. And they have said that all the COVID waste needs to be put in double plastic bag. And then there is last point that I have highlighted is use of personal protective equipment by waste workers, which is absolutely critical. It is not only for waste worker, it is by anybody and everybody who is coming in contact with either corona patients or COVID wards or COVID waste. Anybody and everybody. It's important for them to wear PPE. So what are the treatment options? Many of you know about treatment options, about biomedical waste is a separate cup of tea, but today I'm just talking about COVID waste. So I think many of us know about it, that bleach or chemical is one important way of treating COVID waste. So 1 or 2% of bleach solution for 5 minutes, it'll kill the virus. For general surface disinfection, like when you're looking at your doorknobs, or you're looking at your car, or you're looking at something, so it is 0.5 to 1% of bleach solution. And for floor also, general cleaning that you use in your wards and hospitals, and even if you want to do general cleaning, if you had a patient at home, then you use this kind of bleach solution, and then after that you do it with clean or this thing. So this is what you do to treat issues that are contaminated or infected with corona. Alcohol is another important thing, and that is why all the sprays and sanitizer that you have is basically alcohol based. So 70% ethanol. If you this thing, and you put any waste which has got this, you can put it in that. Like when you're talking about it, so it kills the virus. Or 50% of isopropanol for about 10 minutes for coronaviruses. Then you have soap, which most of us are advised to use soap. So you can, when I'm talking about soap, is that you're washing your hand also, you putting soap into it, and then they said that for certain duration you keep there, and then it'll kill the virus. And fourth one that I put there is thermal. That means if you heat it up, if you put the temperature to that degree, then the virus will get killed. So the temperature that I have mentioned to you is about 70 degrees for about 5 minutes. So these are some of the measures that have been given out, that what do you do to treat corona waste or COVID waste. So disinfecting and reuse, if that is what you want to talk about, some basic procedure that we're talking about: disinfection, soak in soap and hot water about 56 degrees for about 30 minutes, and then rinse well. This step is important both as a disinfecting step and to remove any blood, body fluids, vomit, and organic contaminants that reduce the effectiveness of bleach. So this is important that you disinfect first and then soak in soap. Disinfect means you first bleach it, then put it in soap and hot water. That is what so like you have a patient at home and you have bed sheet, you have something else. So rinsing and drying. So, this is how you are supposed to do it. I hope I'm clear in that first you disinfect with bleach, then you soak it in soap and hot water. That means the temperature that I've been saying. So just about 50-60 degrees, and leave it for about 30 minutes and rinse well, so that you remove all this disinfectant and soap water and all that, and put it in dry sun, and then it becomes okay to use. Then soak again in 1% bleach for about 30 minutes, rinsing and drying wash, and soap and water to remove the bleach. So you remove the bleach and dry under the sun for 1 to 2 days. So this is how, because most of us, or many of us, many of us will have home care patients, and will have people who have been declared as positive, and they would be causing infection, or they could be a potential source for infection. Then how do you deal with anything and everything that they touch, or anything and everything that you want to reuse after it being suspected to be infected? So this is something that you can do. So what do you do with masks? Many of us ask this question: what do you do with masks that most of us are using? Remember, the CPCB guideline says that if you want to discard it, you want to throw it after you have used for maybe 10 days or 15 days or maybe a month, and it's a cloth one, you can wash it and you can use it. But when you're discarding it, what are you supposed to do? So as per the CPCB guideline, what it says that you just put it in a cloth bag or a paper bag for 3 days and leave it there for 3 days, let the virus die off on its own, and then you can discard it in the solid waste stream. So you can put it in the solid waste, and the urban local body is supposed to take it and use it. This is something that I just wanted to bring to your notice, that we all were under the impression when COVID started in March, and 24th March we went into a lockdown, and there was a lot of apprehension that the volume of waste is going to go up phenomenally. But when you actually look at the data in the month of April, we realized April and May both, I was just doing the statistics, and you see that, before COVID is the blue one, which is 15 metric tons or so. But after COVID, the biomedical waste came down to about 9 tons. We dropped in generation of biomedical waste. And then we had COVID waste, which took its place, which is about 6 tons. So net weight, it continued to about 15 tons, but then the biomedical waste came down. And just to tell you, why did biomedical waste came down? Because most of us, the government and everybody else, advised that don't go to hospital, all normal cases to be treated at home, all elective surgeries to be postponed. And that is why the occupancy rates in hospital came down, and we drastically almost came down to about, almost about 40% drop in biomedical waste generation. And same thing is about Gurgaon, and same thing I just picked up Indore, just to tell you that no, this is what happened initially. But now if you look at it again, you will see that if I'm just giving you a Delhi scenario as to what happened in Delhi now, this is about in month of from January to June, I have plotted it, and I can just tell you what is the scenario of biomedical waste and COVID waste. So regular biomedical waste is depicted in blue line, and biomedical waste is in the red line, and then you have total biomedical waste, that is total of these two. So you look at the blue line, it in the month of March it started to drop. In April, you have a very serious drop in biomedical waste, and I gave you the reason for it. It continued to drop in the month of May, and then it flattens out till June. And if you look at red line, we had no corona in January, February, so it is there flat. In month of March, you just had a very small rise in COVID waste, then it rises very exponentially till the month of May. But now again, it plateaus. It is flat. So why the curve is flat? Because I need to see July figure and August figure, which I don't have, but I'm just giving you an impression that the number of active cases are almost similar, because you have recoveries also and you have active cases. So by and large it is flat. It is most of it is flat. So it is not what I'm trying to say by this, that we are as a and this is not only for Delhi, it is proving to be true for other states also. We are not being overwhelmed by biomedical waste. There are certain gaps, but our systems and our treatment places are able to cope, and the waste is not increasing in the manner that there is perhaps a perception that too much of waste is being generated. No, it is flattening out. Okay, so some of the challenges, I'm just coming to my last two slides. I think challenges in managing COVID waste. I think one of the biggest challenges, we don't have adequate information about how to deal with this waste. Like, that it is killed at about 70 degrees, you put it in boiling water for about 5 minutes. I think you have done the job. If you put up this thing, and then if you treat it with bleach, you'll be safe. So you need to be assured that what is the way to treat it. If you are home care patients, everything that is required to be put, you need to put it in a yellow bag and give it to the municipality so that he can treat it separately. Increase in generation point, that means many households are now generating COVID waste. How it is to be dealt? Increase in waste generation, that is, and PPEs, plastic has increased. Absence of bio waste systems in many states. We don't have some of the states where these kind of facilities are there. Collection of treatment infrastructure of household hazardous waste or household biomedical waste, because most municipalities are not sure about how to deal with waste which is being generated by corona patients at home. This is the biggest problem that we are having, that most municipal workers are not sure about how to deal with it. Let me tell you that you are supposed to put your corona waste in a separate bag. Preferably, if you get a yellow colored bag, that is the most desirable bag. Put it in double bag, all the corona waste, which is that does not require to be food or plastic plates or something, that does not require to be put. But anything else that is suspected to be contaminated, like you have needle or you have syringe or you have an IV bottle or you have some other drugs or bottles which have been used by the corona patient, you can put it in this yellow bag. Give this yellow bag separately to the municipal worker. They are supposed to carry it separately and then put it for treatment with the biomedical waste. And this is why the role of urban local body becomes very, very important. And the last point that I was talking about, we as a nation, I don't think we have been overwhelmed as far as the capacity is concerned. But yes, some states are facing problem because they have not been very, very adequately prepared for it. So I think some of the requirements that, if I'm looking ahead, what we require as a nation to do is lack of credible data on healthcare waste. We still don't have adequate and accurate information about how much of waste are we generating across the country. We don't have, whatever I've said, 600 metric tons or 100 metric tons of COVID waste. These are very, sketchy figures many a times that I hear from CPCB, also from the State Pollution Control Board. So we need more credible data on it. Improve environmental governance. I think that about the role of regulators, the role of all other stakeholders, the role of generators. Many people cut corners and send out their biomedical waste with the solid waste. They just throw it along with it. Management of liquid waste is another important thing. Most hospitals do not know how to treat their effluents, and that is a big problem. Possibility of increased investment in public health, that is something that we need to really think as a country, that do we need to really look at investment in public health, increase in waste generation, increase demand. That will happen. Well-defined and established business model. We have a well-defined business model. Can we fine-tune it further? And this is something that doesn't require much thought, but I think more such facilities need to come up. If we have growth in the healthcare sector or number of beds, we need to support it with number of facilities that are available in many of these states. An immense opportunity for innovation and technology that we continue to have, and how to deal with waste, how to segregate this waste, how to reuse plastics which are being generated. I think the chairperson and other people from the Meerut Management Association talked about plastic waste. So even the plastic which is being used in biomedical waste can be recycled completely, because they are very high quality plastics which is used in biomedical waste, and they are autoclaved, and autoclave is the process for sanitizing this waste or disinfecting this waste. After that, this plastic can be recycled and reused, and this is highly beneficial to society. And deficiency of infrastructure in select states, I think this needs to be really thought out and seen. And we need to really look at some of the states that we don't have the amount of infrastructure that we've been looking at. So these were some of my thoughts on biomedical waste, and coupled with corona or COVID waste and the ways to deal with COVID waste. So in case any of you have any question on how to deal with COVID waste or what are the challenges that you're facing, you can put out those questions to me. So thank you all for listening to me, and sorry for the little mix-up that we had because of technology. Thank you all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha, for such an informative talk. And of course, we really never knew that things are so deep in the e-waste market. And of course, there are a lot of points which you have mentioned for the road ahead. And we definitely look forward to it, as of course it will be beneficial for everyone. Now I please hand over to Mr. Ankur to carry forward the convention.
Thank you, Nishant. I would now request Mr. Nishant Jain, the session chairman, to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Satish Sinha. We would have loved to have you here if the COVID thing had not happened and give it to you in person. But now the only media that we have is to send it through courier. And thank you, Mr. Sinha. This was really informative.
Mr. Sinha, this is for you.
It was nice to have you with us on the Zoom. Thank you, Nishant.
Thank you.
Getting on to the next session. Next we have Mr. Pavan Pushkarna. Who is associated as project head with Ecova Solutions Private Limited, Meerut. He would be giving his views on industrial wastewater management, its recycle and reuse.